Welcome to this community newspaper Facebook program, Excellence in Education. This is Marta Perez, and our mission is to expose and inspire excellence in education. Please follow us on Facebook and send us questions via our chat room. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a red letter day for us at Community Newspapers Excellence in Education because today we have a great and extremely famous humanitarian as our guest who can educate us on how he lived his dreams while helping others. His name is Mario Kutzberger, known to all the world as Don Francisco. His Spanish language variety show is listed on the Guinness Book of World Records as the longest running, most successful variety show in the world. This is far beyond any other show, including Johnny Carson, Jay Leno, Jimmy Fallon, David Letterman, all of them combined. Generations of Hispanic language audiences grew up watching his funny and educational show. Mario Kutzberger leads a life of achievement. He is an example to us all, but particularly to our students about what hard work, ambition, and dreams can achieve. We are so fortunate that he has now written his fourth book, a must read for all men of goodwill, called Con Ganas de Vivir, with a desire to live, where he shares stories that helped shape this incredible man's life. I read this inspirational book from cover to cover, Don Francisco, and highly recommend it to the audiences, young and old, because it is charming, modest, and insightful. I had tears in my eyes at least 3 times reading your book, and I could go on and on. But if I continue to speak, we won't hear from this incredible man. So please welcome to your hearts the one and only Mario Kutzberger, Don Francisco. How are you, sir? Tell us about your background and how you grew up to become this world-renowned man.
Well, at first, I have to thank you for that beautiful extended presentation of my book. This is my fourth book. I wrote another book 20 years ago, Entre la Espada y la Pared. That we call that Entre la Espada y la TV. That means like in between a rock and a hard set, something like that. And these are mostly of my experiences the last 20 years. I just became 80. Then I thought that was a good time during the pandemic to write the book. And that's what I did for many hours every day. With a colleague that I worked for more than 40 years, Marcelo Amunategui, he helped me out with his style. He has much better style to write than myself. I write it mostly in my computer, sometimes by hand. And I put my heart, my soul, and my experience in that book.
And in the book, which I told you I read, and this is my book, I have all kinds of markings on it. You describe how you came to be Don Francisco from Mario Kutzberger. Tell us about a little bit about your early life and your family life a little bit.
Well, first, I'm the son of a Holocaust survivor, my father, because my parents, they came from Germany. They flew during the Holocaust to Santiago, Chile, and they were sent to the south of Chile. I was born in Talca. It's a small town. It's about 200 kilometers from Santiago. And then my mother, she always dreamed with her profession. She was an opera singer, but she never could perform because of the war. Then she was trying always to do that. I became a performer. And then I learned about 5 or 6 different instruments. I never could play not one. I was not able to do it. I had no talent for that, but then she sent me to a conservatory to sing. I did it a little better. But when then I started acting in the Maccabi Club, that was a Jewish club in Santiago. And when my father sent me to New York in 1959,
Well, because your father was not on your mother's side was all the acting and
yes,
singing and all, but your father was not.
no, my father was an entrepreneur only, and he wanted somebody that was a technician uh, in fabrics in
Because your father, even in Germany, before he came to Chile, he had a clothing
yes,
store,
clothing store.
and that was in his family's line, right?
Yeah, then he wanted me to be a little more than a tailor, and I became a men's clothing designer in New York. But when I went into the room, a very humble hotel at that time, the hotel's still there, Stanford Hotel, 32nd and Broadway. At that time, that was a hotel for Hispanics.
Okay.
Today, this is a hotel for, I think, Koreans,
Oh.
but the same name. I went there when I wrote the former book. I went to see the room where I was so many years ago. Then, when I went to that room, I saw a radio very similar to the radio that I had in my house. That was a Grunding radio. It's a German radio.
Brand.
Yeah. And the only difference was that instead of having a piece of cloth in front, had a glass.
Uh-huh.
When I put it on, and I thought that radio was, I was able to listen and to watch at the same time, I was amazed. I said, this is the future. I fall in love. That was a love on the first sight with the television. And I was watching television every day, many hours, to learn a little English because I arrived there with not one word in English.
You never studied English in school?
Yeah, but then you
yes,
can
Mary
say
is a
good
boy,
morning,
Mary
good
is a
night,
girl,
and
yeah.
that's it. Well, and I learned through the television and through the conversation that I had with the people in that same hotel. But I fell in love with that. When I went back to Chile with my title as a men's clothing designer, we were preparing the World Cup, soccer World Cup in Chile in 1962.
Okay.
And the World Cup brought the television. Took me long. I was trying during 1 year with perseverance to try to get that position. And I said to everybody, I know more television than all of you. I was watching for 2 years, and nobody here was watching television. After 1 year, they gave me the opportunity at the end, almost at the end of 1962, and I started doing.
As an announcer for the World Cup?
No, I got it. The television at that time was in the hands of the university. It was not a commercial television.
Okay.
And they gave me 1 hour on Sunday.
On Sunday.
But after 8 weeks, they fired me.
Oh, why?
Yeah. Because they said, no, you're not a professional. And then they took me back the next week because the people, they were complaining why I was not on camera.
Uh-huh.
And then I started again. And then, he told me, I cannot give you on Sunday night at 8 o'clock prime time. It's impossible. At that time, they were transmitting only from Sunday to Friday. Saturday was the day to clean the studios.
Okay.
Then they told me, I'm going to give you 1 hour the Saturday.
Good.
In the middle of cleaning, I did, I was presenting some cartoons.
Oh, you were just a presenter of different programs.
And then they gave me 2 hours. Then they gave me 3 hours. Then they gave me 4 hours. At the end, I was doing 8 hours live every Saturday with the name of Sábados Gigantes for 20 years.
And how did you come up with material and things? Sometimes, for 8 hours, how did you come up with what to do during all of that?
Because what I did was a soup that had some basic ingredients. Let's say humor, music, performers, news, interviews, and I mix it. And then I put a little more because life it's something that you can perform the whole day. If I make an interview to you, you have a very interesting life. And even the people that are here sitting and watching this interview, they have a very interesting life. we can do maybe 10 different Facebook Live with the story of each one that is sitting here in front of the camera and
Absolutely.
after the
Yes.
cameras,
Yes,
in the
absolutely.
background.
I agree. Before we get
That
off,
was the idea how I did the program.
well,
In general, the difference of what I did of mostly of the programs are always made on stage. I was always in the middle of the audience. And everything what I did was through the audience. And I think that was the most successful part of what I did.
excellent.
Because they were included the stories of everyone that was sitting in front of the stage where the performers.
Yes.
But I was not on that and this side. I was on the other side, on the side of the audience.
That is very interesting and very insightful. Before we leave your experiences in New York and that part of your life, I noticed, Don Francisco, that you are quite the haberdasher. You know what that means, that
No.
word? Haberdasher is a person that dresses very well.
Oh,
And the first time that I met you, I must tell you that
how I missed that word, haberdasher, if I'm a men's clothing designer.
I know. How is that possible? Yeah, see, well, you see, this is an educational
Okay.
show. So, excellence in education. You learned the word. But so I noticed that you were very well dressed and you're always very well dressed. How important is that for students, for young people? Is the dress important? Is it not, in having been in front of the cameras and in all the situations in your life?
Well, I have to tell you, like in the fiddler on the roof, this is a new life, Golda. This is different today, and we were, we were with a tie, with a jacket at that time on television. But today, the life is different. It's a different mode also.
And you mentioned fiddle. There's so many things that I want to ask you, Don Francisco. You mentioned Fiddler on the Roof.
Yeah.
And I know that that was an important part, and that, in fact, after 53 years of having the show Sábado Gigante, it was you all just your production people. How do we close? How do we do the final show?
Yeah.
And you had an inspiration. You want to talk to us about that and a little bit about the Fiddler on the Roof and how you identify with that character.
Well, when I finished the show, I felt, after 53 years, like Tevye the milkman. Then I said to my colleagues, I like to end the show, and at the end, I want to have a courage like Tevye, and I want to leave the studios. They said, that's impossible. That's not possible. Well, then I said, why we don't have a chiva colombiana? This is a type of a bus, typical Colombian bus. Even I'm Chilean. No. But at the end, they put a bus. And
they had a bus.
They had a bus. And at the end, I ended the show, and with all my crew, I went into the bus, and we leave the studio.
And that was, I told you that I cried about 3 times reading your book, because you wrote so beautifully and so sentimentally about that last show, and how all your crew dressed very elegantly, and the departure, and how everyone left, and I don't know. It is certainly a very poignant moment, but it was also the way you wrote about it with such tenderness that I think was what made me emotional about reading that part.
Well, we never said goodbye. We said hasta siempre.
Hasta siempre.
How we can translate that exactly, hasta siempre?
Until forever.
Until forever.
I think.
That's what we said at the end. Because then I came back to Telemundo, and I still back now. I'm going to do some new programs for CNN in Spanish.
Wonderful! I'm so glad, because
we're going to start at the end of September.
We need your energy, your enthusiasm, your positiveness. There's so many things that you still need to contribute. Your work is not done. In the book, you declare yourself, and I'm going to quote, without ambiguity, a family man. What do you mean? And why is that important for other men, particularly in the education of their children?
Well, because I became a bigamy when I started on television and I married at the same time. Then I had two love together.
Two wives.
Yeah. But after 59 years, I'm married the same amount of years that I'm in television. I have one daughter, two sons. I have nine grandchildren. And before yesterday, I was advised that I'm going to be a grandfather.
Oh, congratulations. Isn't that wonderful? Very good. Excellent. And, you know, in the book, you write in the beginning a lot about your family and how important your family is and how important it is for all of us. And it is evident throughout your years that your parents' Jewish religion was of great influence to you. Tell us about that and how you have reconnected a bit. You write that your father first didn't ever want to speak to you, that you had to do a lot of searching for those years, those very difficult years for your parents.
Yes, I had a mistake because that's why I just spoke to the rabbi that is here also. That when it was the 60th anniversary, I went to the March of Life, March of Living, and I did a documentary honoring my parents. But because my father never talked about this, I was wrong. I thought always that my father, because one of his relatives told me that my father was in Bergen-Belsen. But this fellow that works with me and that wrote with me the book, he always said that was impossible because the dates
Didn't match.
they didn't match. And he found out, and we have now, and I put it in the book, all the papers that my father was in Buchenwald, and he was the prisoner 27170. And that's then with this information, I was able to match the story, and I wrote the whole story about my parents in Germany, and then when they arrived to my home country in Chile.
Which is, again, written in a very emotional style, like a very good son to his parents, and that was another part of the book that I found very emotional as well. There's so many questions I have. Don
Remember
Francisco.
when this guy raised his hand?
Oh no, I'm
You
going
have
to
5
ignore
minutes.
him. I'm going to ignore him. No, I won't ignore him. And I want the people to know who have not read the book, of course, and I hope the book comes out in English because there's so many people that I think need to read about you. So many young people that grew up with you. So many young people that say you were their babysitter for so many years because their parents were working and they would turn on the TV and you babysat in a fun, happy, family oriented program.
Oh yes, I was the nanny for many
years.
for many years.
I hope that you can translate it.
I will try. I was trying because at first I have to get a translator, and then I have to do it by myself, and maybe put some books in Amazon or something.
Yes.
For people they are English preferent.
Yes, and
in my case, I'm Spanish preferent, I'm German preferent, different languages. Then, excuse me for the mistakes that I'm doing.
What is the easiest for you?
Well, German. I'm complete bilingual in German and Spanish.
If that's the easiest language for you, still is German.
No, Spanish is my first language, and then German at the same level.
But you speak English very well.
No,
so
but
I
do some mistakes in the middle. Then excuse us. Excuse me.
You've been interviewed in English many times. You've been on the Jay Leno show. You've been on all the shows.
Yeah, but I did mistakes in each place.
I don't know. But among your many accomplishments, and you've received many humanitarian awards for the things that you have tried to do to help others. because you have lived such a wonderful, big, you've lived, Don Francisco, you've lived a big life, is how you created the Chilean telethon,
Oh,
which is like a telethon. Tell us about that. You describe in the book coming to
well,
your
I have to make a little story about that. I was doing a documentary in the United States for the bicentennial of the United States in 1976. And I was always looking for something that I can do for the audience, for the people, because I said the people, the people, especially my viewers, they gave me so many beautiful moments, and also they give me the opportunity to live a little better, to have the opportunity to send my children to good schools, and I saw always how I can give back. And I saw the telethon from Jerry Lewis here in the States. And then one day I went to the embassy in Chile and I said, why you don't put me together with Jerry Lewis? Most of the young people that are watching here on Facebook, they don't know who is Jerry
Terry
Lewis.
Lewis,
And you have to explain that Jerry Lewis was a very well-known actor and comedian.
comedian.
I talked to him, but it was very difficult to do the telethon like it was in the United States. Then we invented something similar, and we did a telethon for 27 hours. I'm doing that for 42 years
42
with
years.
the whole. It's a network, all the television stations together, radios, newspaper, and this is a big event. We start when it was a very small house that could help about 75 children. During 42 years, we have helped more than 100,000 children. We have
Wonderful.
now active 30,000 children. We have 14 hospitals along the country. And what's amazing is my country is a small country, Chile. We
Yes.
have only 18 million people, and we raise every year between 50 and 55 million dollars, and we get some money from the government too to maintain the
The
14
14.
hospitals. And what was more amazed is that during the pandemic, virtual telethon from the living house, from the living in my house,
You did
we
it.
did the telethon and we raised the same amount
Oh
of
my
money.
goodness.
And we were able, now that we have systems that we can do it through the telephone, to internet, helping to rehab exercise. We were attending all the people during the pandemic also.
In your book, you talk about some of your famous and I know that I want to ask you, you've received so many wonderful awards, the a papal medal of honor, you have received an Emmy, you have a star in Hollywood, you've done so many things with your incredible life, your very large life. Some of the interviews, I think, after interviewing, how many people would you say? You thousands of people.
100,000 maybe.
100,000. Some very famous. What have been some of the interviews that have touched you particularly? And I know that you write about them in. You wrote about interviewing President Obama, President Bush, and many other famous American presidents, international people. Which one? Any come to mind?
It's difficult to say because in so many interviews, you get surprised in different matters, and then I think is I don't make justice to that if I choose one person. There are many persons. They gave me so many good advices through the answers that they gave me.
Such what would be a good advice? I know that you surprised President Obama because he was expecting you to ask him about his whatever policies, etc., and you disarmed him because you asked him about his hair, I think.
Yeah, well, I had an argument with with a journalist, and I said, all the questions, because I have to make the questions, I write the questions, then I make less mistakes in English
Uh-huh.
when I ask to the president. But I said, the president, he will answer after the first question about immigration. He will answer all the other questions that you have here. It's about, in one question, he will answer everything because he
Yes.
knows
Of
why
course.
we are coming.
Yes.
Then I tried to find the man, not the president. And I said, President, I interviewed you in the first time and you had only black hair. And today you don't have almost no more black hair. And that was surprising for him. And then I went into his heart and I spoke about his children, his life, his love with his wife, his bad moments. Then we had a different interview
So it,
with all my limited English.
oh, I'm sure that it was perfect. When you say that an interviewer should speak to the heart of the interviewee, as an interviewer for you, what speaks to your heart? What is in your heart, having finished the that episode in your life, and now beginning new episodes?
That's very interesting because I for this time in my life I have a therapist
Uh huh.
because you you told me about the star that I have in Hollywood. You told me about so many awards, nice awards, beautiful moments, but everything was yesterday. But I have to live today and tomorrow. And this is something that you have to learn to start a new life because I did the same life for 60 years. That was something that I got up at 6 o'clock in the morning to do some exercise, and then I came back home at 11, 12 o'clock for so many years. And now I have more times. I owe sometimes to my wife, to my family, and then I have to find a way to be also happy and at the same time to give back to this group of people like so important that this is my family that they support me for so many years when I was in another world.
When when you were conquering the world, why do you think? What advice would you give to young people? Because today, there's a lot of people that feel that, with our cell phones, that people are not communicating. And you are the perfect the best communicator. Um, what could you tell children why you were so successful, and what is it? How can you describe some of the things that they should perhaps be doing?
I can make a summary of one word:
Yes,
perseverance.
perseverance.
The perseverance because you fall so many times and you have to get up always one time more. And perseverance is very important. And being focused on what you like. In that, I made some changes in my mind during the years. Today, I'm completely sure that you have to follow your feelings, your desires. You have to follow what you want to do in life. Doesn't matter anything more than this is something that you like, because you have to be a happy person doing what you like to do. Sometimes you are forced to do something that maybe that you don't like, but maybe beside that, you have to try to do what you like.
Well, are you doing what you like, Don Francisco, currently?
Yes,
Yes,
what I can do.
what you can do, and what how do you relax? What are some of the things that you enjoy doing these days?
Well, during about the 2 decades I was a fisherman. I like that very
Oh,
much.
you like to fish?
Yeah, I had a boat and I went to fish. Today I have a different, well, I see a lot of documentaries, movies, a little exercise every day. That's very important for me. Swimming pool. and traveling.
And traveling. Hopefully, we can all travel again because it's so it's the one thing people miss so much. Don Francisco, you've had again such, like you said, a wonderful life from the outside, but there have been many challenges. Tell us about some of the challenges in your life and being Don Francisco. And I also know that you wrote about the difference between Mario Kreutzberger and Don Francisco.
Yeah.
So tell us about that too.
Well, when you are a host, you have, because today I'm more Mario than Don Francisco. But when you're a host, you need another speed. You need a different action because the people are in his house. Maybe they're eating or they're almost sleeping and say, "Hola, ¿cómo están? ¿Cómo les va? Les voy a presentar." You have to have another speed. You have to have another energy. And this is difficult. You cannot arrive and you cannot talk to your wife. Hi, how are you? Good night. Here I am. No, you have to be yourself, right?
Right.
Then you have, you're yourself, but at the same time, there are two different people. One is Don Francisco, the performer, the host, the man that is in front of the camera or on stage. And this is Mario, the husband, the father, the brother, the son.
Yes. So that is so interesting. We have the sign up for the time, which unfortunately has passed so quickly. But Don Francisco, Mario, this program is about excellence in education. And tell us what has been important in educating you, not just or your children, not just going to school, but education about life. What have been some of the things that you see that have guided you and have helped you to be a good father, and what has been important in you for your children?
Well,
with education,
I think education is the most important. I have one of my tag lines, and I like that you translate it. La preparación es la base de la improvisación.
Preparation is the basis of improvisation.
Yeah, that's when you have to improvise. You have to be prepared. In life, always you have to improvise. Then you have to be well prepared. Mm-hmm. That's why education and excellent education is so important.
Yes. Before we go, if there anything else that you would like to add, I have other questions.
I thank you very much for.
What is your favorite meal?
Everything. That's why I did it. One of my chapters is El peso de mi peso. That means how you can translate that, El peso de mi peso.
The weight of my weight.
The weight of my weight, but doesn't mean the same thing in English than in Spanish.
Well, I having a family where obesity has been a problem a long time, I certainly identified completely.
In my family too.
Yes, and we know that is a challenge. But do you prefer Chilean, German?
Anything that you give me, I eat it.
Yes, your mom, when you were growing up, it was very German.
Yeah, food. we had German food at home, but anything that you give me, I eat it.
Well, thank you so very much for being on this show. It has been so interesting, and I hope that your message gets to our students. You have such a great message, Don Francisco. I hope you continue. I hope you translate the book, and that more people can hear about your fabulous life and all that you've done for humanity. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for thank you for listening to Excellence in Education.